Death Valley National Park. Death Valley National Park is a huge desert park in the western United States, stretching across parts of California and Nevada. It sits in the Mojave Desert and is famous for its dramatic scenery and extreme heat. The landscape feels almost unreal. Wide salt flats, colorful mountains, sand dunes, and endless open space under a bright sky. The valley itself lies between tall mountain ranges, which trap hot air and make the temperatures rise to incredible levels. That's why it's known as one of the hottest places on Earth. Inside the park is Badwater Basin, the lowest point in North America, where the ground sits below sea level and stretches out in white salt patterns that look like snow from a distance. Even though the name sounds harsh, the valley is full of life. Plants and animals have learned to survive in this tough environment, finding ways to live with little water, intense sun, and salty soil. Still, for many travelers in the past, crossing this land was dangerous and exhausting. Those difficult journeys are part of the reason the place earned its powerful and unforgettable name. The story of how people first came to know this harsh land is closely tied to the gold rush of 1849. At the center of it is a young pioneer named William Lewis Manley, who became known for an almost unbelievable rescue. A group of families, including women and children, were traveling west toward California, hoping for a better life. Trying to save time, they chose a shortcut that turned out to be a terrible mistake. Instead of reaching safety, they wandered into a vast desert surrounded by mountains. Soon, they were trapped. Their food began to run out. The oxen and horses died from heat and thirst. Water was almost impossible to find. Days passed, and the situation grew worse. The sun was relentless. The ground burned under their feet, and many people became too weak to keep moving. Some could barely stand. Fear spread through the group because it began to feel like there was no way out. It seemed only a matter of time before the desert would claim them. William Manley and another man made a brave choice. They decided to attempt what seemed impossible, to cross the desert and find help. It meant walking for days under the burning sun, with very little food and almost no water. Every step was dangerous, but staying behind would have meant certain death for everyone. They kept going, mile after mile, through heat and exhaustion, until at last they reached a settlement. There, they were able to get supplies and a horse. What makes the story truly remarkable is what they did next. Instead of staying where it was safe, they turned around and went back into the desert to rescue the families they had left behind. Because of their determination, several people who were already close to death were saved. The experience had been so frightening and painful that when the survivors finally left the valley, one woman looked back and said the words that would become famous: "Goodbye, Death Valley." From that moment on, the name remained forever. What makes the story of Death Valley even more fascinating is that long before the pioneers arrived, the land had been home to people for thousands of years. The Timbisha Shoshone tribe, in particular, knew the valley intimately. For them, it wasn't a place of death at all. It was home. They understood how to find water, where to shelter from the sun, and how to survive in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Even today, the valley continues to capture the imagination of scientists, explorers, and visitors alike, not just because of its extreme heat, but also because of strange phenomena that seem almost impossible. One of the most famous mysteries happens at a place called Racetrack Playa, a dry lake with a hard, cracked mud surface. There, enormous rocks appear to move on their own, leaving long trails behind them, as if someone, or something, had pushed them across the desert floor. For years, no one could explain how it happened. Some thought it was a trick of the wind. Others imagined more mysterious forces at work. Eventually, scientists discovered that under very specific conditions, thin sheets of ice form beneath the rocks at night. When the sun warms the ice during the day, it starts to crack and float, and even a light breeze is enough to push the rocks slowly across the surface. The movement is so gradual that it is almost invisible, but the long trails they leave behind tell the story of their silent journey. Even knowing the explanation doesn't make it any less magical. Walking across the Racetrack Playa, seeing the tracks stretch for hundreds of feet, you can't help but feel that the valley is full of secrets, waiting for anyone patient enough to notice them. The valley is full of other strange sights too. The extreme heat can create intense mirages, making the ground shimmer like water, lakes, or even shiny metal from a distance. Early travelers were often fooled, thinking they saw oases that didn't exist. At night, the desert transforms again. With almost no light pollution, the skies above Death Valley are some of the darkest in North America. On clear nights, the Milky Way stretches across the sky like a glowing river, so bright and vivid that many people describe it as almost otherworldly. And then, there's the heat. The valley isn't just hot, it's fiercely, dangerously hot. The surrounding mountains trap the warm air, and the dark ground absorbs sunlight all day, releasing it slowly at night. These conditions can be deadly for anyone unprepared, especially during the long summer months. Walking through the desert, you feel both awe and caution, a sense that this place is alive and commanding respect. Despite its harsh appearance, the valley can surprise you. After rare rains, thousands of wildflowers sometimes bloom across the desert in what is called a super bloom. Suddenly, the landscape is covered in color, as if the desert itself has come alive. Many visitors say that Death Valley is a place of contrasts. Dangerous yet beautiful, silent yet full of life, and so strange it almost feels like another planet. But the valley's mysteries go beyond its beauty. For decades, Death Valley has been known for eerie stories, disappearances, and legends that capture the imagination. Its isolation, deadly temperatures, and vast empty spaces make it a perfect setting for events that are hard to explain. Over the years, travelers and adventurers have vanished without a trace. Sometimes rescue teams find abandoned cars, personal belongings, or footprints that simply disappear into the sand. One of the most dangerous factors is the heat, which can quickly disorient people. Dehydration and mental confusion can lead someone to wander the wrong way, away from safety, and in some cases, no trace of them is ever found. This has added to the valley's mysterious reputation. One of the most famous stories is that of the lost Gunsight Mine, a legendary gold mine said to be incredibly rich. In the 19th century, explorers claimed to have found it and went searching for it, but some never returned. According to the legend, anyone who got too close to the mine's secret suffered accidents, got lost, or died in strange circumstances, as if the desert itself was guarding its treasure. To this day, no one has confirmed its exact location, and the story continues to stir curiosity and fear among those who hear it. Some visitors and park workers have reported strange and unsettling experiences. Shadows seem to move among the rocks when no one is there. People sometimes feel as if they're being watched in completely empty areas. Others have seen distant lights at night in places where there shouldn't be anyone. While many of these stories likely have natural explanations, fatigue, heat, or the isolation of the desert, the experiences can feel very real. In such an extreme environment, even small things take on a strange, almost eerie quality. One of the most striking things about the valley is the silence. With no cities nearby, almost no animals, and sometimes not even a breeze, the desert can feel completely still. Many visitors describe it as unsettling, even oppressive, as if the land itself is aware of your presence. Of course, most of the dangers of Death Valley have very real, natural causes. The extreme heat, the lack of water, the rough and challenging terrain, and the ease of getting lost all combine to make the desert a place where caution is essential. Yet, it is exactly these harsh conditions, mixed with its mysterious phenomena, that make the valley so fascinating, a place where reality and legend seem to coexist.